Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, heightened concern over the threat of wildfires. How long can we expect to be on high alert? What is SDG&E saying about outages, and a look at how crews turn to high tech to keep you safe. Plus, our local transit is getting greener. Electric buses are coming to San Diego, and we take a ride inside. And notice credit card rates are going up. Well, you're not alone. What's driving the increase? KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. It's Wednesday, October 23rd. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi, and we begin tonight with local fire stations on high alert. Additional air equipment at the ready in both South and North County for what's being called increased fire danger because of extreme red flag conditions. And as KPBS reporter Eric Anderson shows us, fire officials statewide are using a supercomputer from a local university to fight back against the flames.
Orange County fire officials started using the Wildfire tool in September. The sophisticated fire modeling software uses real-time data to run rapid simulations. It was one tool that Southern California firefighters used to battle the Palisades fire in Los Angeles. That several hundred-acre brush fire forced evacuations, but fire crews were able to save 6 homes. Wildfire helped crews by providing 6-hour forecasts of where the fire was headed.
So it helps to see where the fire is likely going to go. So fire department can use this for planning purposes, where to put their limited resources. It can also be used to plan maybe the aircraft that will go over, where to put the fire out.
Locally, the supercomputer can tap into San Diego Gas and Electric's extensive network of weather stations in the backcountry. That gives engineers real-time data like temperature, humidity, and wind speeds. Meteorologist Alex Tardy says the Wildfire system also uses information compiled by the National Weather Service.
What we're using here at the National Weather Service is a tool on satellite that updates every 1 to 5 minutes, 24/7, 365, and we can use that tool to detect a wildfire.
Once the origin of the fire is located, the UCSD supercomputers can begin running their algorithms. Raymond DeCalifon says crunching the numbers is fast, and an internet connection is all fire officials need to access the data.
The simulations themselves run at the San Diego Supercomputer Center, but the simulations, the results are displayed via a web interface. So the information on those fires could be accessed from anywhere.
DeCalifon says the Wildfire system has already proved useful, even though it has only been used since September. He says it would have been invaluable if it was available for San Diego's most destructive wildfires in 2003 and 2007. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
San Diego Gas and Electric has warned nearly 24,000 customers that the severe winds could lead to forced power shutoffs. The agency says the move is meant to prevent fires that could spark from a downed power line, according to the agency. The customers in 21 communities, mostly in the East County, were not given any scheduled time. Instead, SDG&E said they would continue to monitor weather conditions and alert customers if a shutoff was indeed necessary. The National Weather Service says conditions will be worse starting tomorrow.
We're in the transition now from the Santa Ana event number 1 to Santa Ana event number 2, and that looks like it'll unfold as early as Thursday morning and roll all the way through Friday night. But most at risk are certainly our communities in the foothills, because that's where there's more vegetation. And so fires that do get going, especially fires that occur in windy conditions like we see on Thursday and Friday, those fires can spread and spread rapidly, and they can affect a lot of communities and homes in those areas.
And as you heard, we're not out of the woods yet with our wildfire weather conditions. With more on the red flag warning, let's go to meteorologist Daji Aswad.
Tonight into Friday, we are still looking at critical weather conditions, low humidity, strong winds, and lack of moisture leading to a very high fire threat for portions of Northern California, even here in Southern California. So for your Thursday morning into your Friday evening, we will be under a red flag warning out to Fallbrook. That also includes Pine Valley and Julian, and we will have to be very alert about our actions because dew point temperatures tonight in the 60s, seeming like we have moisture, but as we move into tomorrow, they'll drop well below 60, and they'll continue to hold on to those dry conditions. We'll also notice winds picking up here. For tonight, not as gusty, but the darker shades of purples and blue indicate strong winds coming our way. I have more into the extended forecast. Back to you.
Chaos on Capitol Hill. About 24 House Republicans stormed today's impeachment inquiry testimony. The action caused a delay in the hearing involving Laura Cooper. She's the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia, Ukraine, and Eurasia. The GOP lawmakers stormed the secure hearing room, yelling that the process is a sham. Cooper's testimony has been highly anticipated because her Pentagon position gives her oversight of U.S. policy toward Ukraine. She would have overseen the $250 million aid package that was frozen by the Trump administration. The impeachment inquiry centers on whether Trump withheld that money to pressure Ukraine's president to investigate his political opponents. And President Trump, meanwhile, is claiming victory in Syria after a deal is reached between Russia and Turkey. Today, the president announced he's lifting all economic sanctions against Turkey. Nadia Romero has more on the impact and the plans for U.S. troops throughout the Middle East and Afghanistan.
At the White House Wednesday, President Trump praising efforts by his administration to stop the bloodshed in Syria.
The government of Turkey informed my administration that they would be stopping combat and their offensive in Syria and making the ceasefire permanent.
But it was a deal struck between the presidents of Turkey and Russia, who plan to jointly patrol the border of Turkey and Syria, establishing a safe zone and removing Kurds from the border region.
We have done them a great service, and we've done a great job for all of them. And now we're getting out.
The president says he's keeping a campaign promise to bring all troops in the Middle East home, sentiments recently echoed to CNN by Secretary of Defense Mark Esper.
We will temporarily reposition in Iraq pursuant to bringing the troops home. And so it's just one part of a continuing phase, but eventually those troops are going to come home.
But after the announcement this week that U.S. forces in Afghanistan have quietly been reduced over the last year.
This is a good time to go beyond just eastern Syria and also express ourselves on the inappropriateness of drawing down in Afghanistan.
Besides some U.S. troops guarding oil fields in Syria, President Trump saying the embattled area is no longer the U.S.'s responsibility.
Let someone else fight over this long, blood-stained sand.
In Washington, I'm Nadia Romero reporting.
A health alert tonight involves a possible measles exposure at Disneyland. A person infected with the contagious virus visited the park on October 16th. The person was on Disney property all day. The LA County Health Department issued the warning. Measles can spread through coughing and sneezing and can live for up to 2 hours in the air. Symptoms include fever, cough, red watery eyes, and finally, a rash. They set in anywhere from 7 to 21 days after exposure. The CDC reports the U.S. is dealing with its largest measles outbreak since 1992. San Diego's public transit is getting greener in more ways than one. MTS is rolling out a small fleet of green electric buses that run entirely on batteries. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says they are the next generation of sustainable transportation.
Other than the new color scheme, MTS's new electric buses look almost identical to the existing fleet, but these ones are quieter, a lot quieter.
It's going to be interesting to see how well they perform.
Mike Wygant is chief of bus operations at MTS. He says state regulations will soon require the agency to start purchasing more and more zero-emission buses. The goal is to transition to an all-electric fleet by 2040.
This is just the next step of us looking into the most cost-effective way to put the most environmentally friendly vehicle on the road.
The new buses are more expensive, almost twice the cost of conventional buses that run on natural gas. The transit agency paid for them with a mix of local money and state grants, and the technology has its limitations. Buses will have to stop and recharge.
It's a balance of weight and range within the current limitations. It is improving. It's probably improving about 5% every other year is what we've seen so far, but it's still not one for one.
In other words, the technology will have to improve to match the performance of the existing buses. MTS will be test driving the buses throughout San Diego to gather data on how they perform. Passengers will be able to catch a ride on the new buses late next month. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
More students may have a chance to go to college for free. This week, for the first time, San Diego Community College District rolled out its Keeping the Promise campaign. The one day of giving raised more than $27,000. Speak City Heights reporter Ebony Monet shows us how students are benefiting.
San Diego Continuing Education is the largest source of students for San Diego community colleges. We're here at the Mid-City campus here in City Heights, where we spoke to a student about how taking courses here impacted her life.
My name is Lavette Arcega.
Lavette Arcega says so much has changed since she was a 15-year-old girl without direction.
I started skipping school, and my dad is like, "You're not gonna go back to school."
Arcega says a special teacher almost convinced her to go back to school.
He seen the potential in me, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna cry. It's really emotional because I never talk about it. So he's like, I believe in you, you're gonna do it. I'm like, okay, let's go do the high school diploma.
Arcega focused on earning a living instead, and the years passed.
And 10 years went by. I had 3 kids.
But her teacher's words and an internal nagging stayed with her.
I wanted my high school diploma. I wanted my high school diploma just because it's a goal that I've been wanting since I was young.
Arcega quit her job and enrolled in San Diego Continuing Education's Accelerated High School Diploma Program.
It was a little hard due to the fact that I do have my 10-year-old. He's currently 10-year-old. He's mild to moderate autistic. And me finding a good way, to cope as a single parent, to cope as a student, to cope as a mother, I had to really sit down and acknowledge my budget.
Now Arcega is a student at San Diego City College. She's studying child development with plans to become a teacher who works with students with special needs.
I want to be able to connect, with the parents, to talk to them. I know their struggles. I know what they go through. And even students, just being familiar with them, and empowering them and knowing that they can do way better than what people has stereotyped them to be.
And she's being helped by San Diego Promise, which provides 2 years of free community college tuition and other services to full-time students. It's funded with state dollars and private donations. The district says the goal is to give more people the opportunity to change their trajectories.
It might take me 10 years, but I did it.
Arcega credits San Diego Continuing Education for lighting the path to a second chance.
I have not graduated yet. I'm on the right path, but I would have done it without them.
To find out more about the Keeping the Promise campaign, log on to kpbs.org and click on the link in the story. Reporting in City Heights, Ebony Monet, KPBS News.
Some East County students got quite the lesson in history today. Holocaust survivor Rose Schindler of San Diego shared her experience, and now with the help of her son, she's published a new book. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong went to Ramona High School to hear her story firsthand.
Each year, thousands of students across the country read The Diary of Anne Frank and Night by Elie Wiesel. Rose Schindler hopes her new book, Two Who Survived, will also become part of the literature students read about the Holocaust.
I've been speaking at school since over 45 years. And it's middle school, high school. I go to the military, I go to the churches, synagogues. I never say no because it's so important to tell the world what happened to us. So many people don't have any idea what happened during the Second World War.
Schindler's son, Ben, says the book is unique because of its broader scope. It tells the story of how his parents, both separated from their families and placed into concentration camps, were able to start a family together in the United States while grappling with their experiences during the Holocaust.
When we wrote the memoir, people told me, your parents can speak as if they know what's going to happen, because they do know what's going to happen, because the book is written after the fact. But you could still stay first person at the time when you're telling the story.
After Rose spoke, Ramona High School students lined up to get an autographed copy of the book.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rose's next stop will be the University of San Diego's Law School on Thursday evening. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
It may seem counterintuitive. The Federal Reserve has been cutting interest rates, but your credit card's annual percentage rate, or APR, may be rising. The reason? Those generous rewards programs on the cards are taking a bite out of banks' profits. To help pay for the rewards programs, banks are charging credit card holders more with higher rates. The Wall Street Journal reports the average APR on interest charging credit cards is about 17%. And that is near the highest in more than 20 years. So in this environment, it's as important as ever to maintain a good credit score. It's going to determine the rate you get when you sign up for a new card. The best rates are going to applicants with credit scores of 700 or above, but usually when signing up, you're just given a range of what the rate will fall into. You won't know your exact APR until you receive the card. So double check the rate to make sure it's where you believe it should be. And one way to not have to worry about your APR, pay off that balance every month if possible.
Keep your password to yourself. That's the new message from Netflix. The streaming platform says it's focused on preventing customers from sharing accounts and trading passwords. Its chief product officer says they're still looking for ways to make that happen. Right now, the cost of a basic plan is $8.99 per month, which allows a user to stream on a single screen at a time. Other slightly more expensive plans allow users to watch on additional screens. And according to the survey done for CNBC, nearly 10% of Netflix users don't pay for the Netflix accounts that they use. Best Buy is helping shoppers make a quick buy. The retailer will have free next-day deliveries during the holiday season. This service is available for nearly all customers, and it includes most items. Heavy items like refrigerators and big-screen TVs are among the exceptions, though. Customers outside of the next-day zone will be given free standard shipping on everything. No membership or minimum purchase is needed to take advantage of the offer. If you've never craved a late-night snack of carrots or apples, you're not alone. In fact, it's a normal biological response to reach for junk food when you're sleepy. In today's Health Minute, Jeremy Roth explains why.
You may already know that getting a good night's sleep is essential for your metabolism to function normally. But did you know sleep, or lack thereof, can also dictate what types of food you may crave? Here's the science behind it. There are two hormones that control our urges to eat: leptin, which suppresses appetite, and ghrelin, which increases our hunger. Research published in the medical journal Psychoneuroendocrinology shows that sleep deprivation affects the balance of these two hormones, mainly spiking the one that makes you hungry. So why are you reaching for junk food instead of kale? That's thanks to the endocannabinoid system. They bind to the same receptors as the active ingredient in marijuana, which can trigger the munchies. And that system makes us crave fatty, starchy, and sugary foods. And according to a 2016 study, just like ghrelin, when we don't get enough sleep, that system goes into overdrive. Experts are still unclear why all this happens, but if you want to limit those late-night cookie cravings, it might help to get more rest. For today's Health Minute, I'm Jeremy Roth.
NASA is doubling down on plans to get astronauts to Mars by 2035. The goal was announced today. NASA is also hoping to get us on the moon again by 2024. That's in just 5 years. The agency claims speeding up the moon landing will make the Mars landing happen faster as well. Before they can reach that lofty goal, they'll have to find out ways to keep astronauts healthy and make sure they have enough food supply to explore the red planet. The Imperial County Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to declare a local emergency due to air pollution at the Salton Sea, the largest lake in the state. The action will force state and federal officials to take measures to decrease the dust around the lake. The dry lake bed contains fine dust particles that may contain pesticide residue from farm fields and other toxic materials from runoff, which can be harmful to residents. As we mentioned at the top of the newscast, county fire officials and residents need to be on alert due to red flag warning. Meteorologist Aji Aswad joins us again with an updated forecast.
Tonight, we're cooling down to 51 in Oceanside, lower 60s in San Diego, and still holding on to the little bit of moisture that we have. But overall, not a lot of cloud cover here, and that's because drier air is moving in. 62 in Borrego Springs, 49 in Mount Laguna, and a quiet night in terms of precipitation. We'll continue to notice winds picking up here across much of California. But for Southern California, as you head into those mountains, valleys, and canyons, that's where we'll see some of the strongest wind gusts. That will be leading to some fire danger as we move into these overnight hours Thursday morning and continuing into your Friday evening. Red flag warning will be in place for Fallbrook as well as Pine Valley and even extending points to our north. As we talk about temperatures, well above average here, 93 in Oceanside, 90 in Borrego Springs, and feeling the breeze as you head into Mount Laguna, high of 69. San Diego looking at a high of 88. So we need to stay hydrated as we venture out on your Thursday. The warmth sticks with us for this weekend as we will not be seeing any precipitation coming our way. So as we head into your Friday forecast, a high of 91 at the coast. It's very warm. Still holding on to some warmth, but temperatures will begin to tumble down a tad bit closer to average on Saturday, a high of 83, 76 Sunday, and 75 on Monday with the chance for some wet weather. Definitely something that we need. We'll also be noticing temperatures very warm for tomorrow and then easing down into the lower 80s inland areas as we move into the end of the weekend and early week. Very windy conditions in the mountains and then improvements and looking at plenty of sunshine Friday and Saturday and dry conditions sticking with us in the deserts with temperatures cooling down as we move into the late week and early week. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Dajia Swad. Back to you.
If you're the parent of a teen or tween, you may have experienced the struggle of getting them to pick a book and enjoy reading it. Today, I interviewed New York Times bestselling author and educator Kwame Alexander, who has dedicated himself into getting kids excited about reading. Kwame Alexander, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about reading. I have a ravenous reader, but I also have another child who, forgive the pun, uses every excuse in the book not to read.
Right.
What advice would you give to a parent who is suffering the same as I am?
Books are amusement parks, and sometimes you got to let kids choose the rides. It's not about getting a kid to read the book we think they want to read. Find the book that's going to connect with them. Find out what about that book is going to make that kid feel engaged, inspired, empowered. My parents, well, my mother got it. My father didn't get it. My father made me read his dissertations, his college dissertations, and he made me read books in the dictionary and in the encyclopedia. And I had teachers like that. And I just think, you know, adults, parents, teachers, librarians, educators, we got to help kids find those books that are not just going to make them read, but make them want to read. And that requires us to know our kids. Do they play basketball? Are they into gaming? Do they like flowers? Do they like birds? Do they like animals, dogs? And find those books that are going to have some of those themes, those topics that are going to make them feel sort of cool. And your book, The Crossover, it's part of KPBS's One Book for Teens, and it's a novel with, it's got a really unique narration style where you use long-form poetry. Right. Tell us about how that nuanced storytelling draws people in. I think poetry is rhythmic. It's concise, it's short and to the point. You talk about sort of really heavy things and you can do it in a few words. There's a lot of white space. Yeah. And so even the most reluctant of readers can say, well, I can get through that. I can make it through that. It's not intimidating to the eye. I think poetry builds confidence. I think it triggers voice. I found poetry, my mother read to me a lot of poetry growing up. It's how I learned how to communicate. And if you think about it, it's how most of us learn how to communicate when we're little, speaking, listening, reading and writing, by the lullabies and the nursery rhymes and that kind of thing. I think where I finally realized that poetry was the thing that I wanted to do, to be a part of, I was in college and I had met this girl and she was beautiful. And I wanted to let her know that, but I was kind of shy. So I wrote her a poem. Lips like yours ought to be worshipped. See, I ain't never been too religious, but you can baptize me anytime. And she ended up marrying me. Poetry works. It works. Exactly, it works. Exactly. Well, that's a great story. Yeah. I'd like to talk about The Crossover, which is the book that we're using here at KPBS to get kids into reading. Right. What would they love about this book? What would they love about The Crossover? Wow. I think every kid has some relationship to basketball. They either play it, they know somebody who plays it, they watch it, you know, so there's already that connection. And I think that what I try to do in the crossover is use basketball as a metaphor for our lives. And I think if a kid, you know, hears or reads dribble, fake, shoot, miss, dribble, fake, shoot, miss, dribble, fake, shoot, miss, dribble, fake, shoot, swish, I think they're gonna get it. And that's what I want. I want kids to come away from this book thinking, yeah, I get it. I gotta say yes to life. I gotta treasure my family. I gotta be a star in my mind, and I gotta let it shine.
Kwame Alexander, thank you so much for your time. We loved having you here.
Thank you all so much for having me.
And Kwame's book, The Crossover, is part of KPBS's One Book, One San Diego for Teens. And you can find out more, including events at local libraries, when you go to kpbs.org/onebookforteens. A big honor for former SDSU Aztec baseball star Steven Strasburg. He'll be the starting pitcher tonight for the Washington Nationals in Game 2 of the World Series. And like Nationals fans, who will be having a watch party in their home stadium, current and former Aztec players will be part of a local watch party as well. That's tonight at OG's in Mission Valley. You are invited to attend and cheer on Strasburg as the Nationals take on the Astros in Houston. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.